Ladies and gentlemen, gather around. This video is about to uncover the current news about President Vladimir Putin. Get ready to be amazed and enlightened. Please hit the like button to show your support. Share it with your friends and family to spread our eye-opening extra narrative. And don't forget to follow us to stay tuned for more. And always remember to tell us something we need to know. So buckle up as we dive into the news in full. The evolution of Vladimir Putin, a leader's journey. Quick montage of Russia from the streets of St. Petersburg to the Kremlin, setting the stage for the story of Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin, one of the most powerful figures in modern world politics, didn't always have the world in his sights. Born in 1952 in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, his journey from a young boy in a turbulent Soviet Union to the president of Russia is nothing short of extraordinary. Let's dive into the fascinating life of Vladimir Putin. Early life in Leningrad. Black and white photos or footage of Leningrad in the 1950s, showing everyday life in post-World War II Russia. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born on October 7, 1952, in Leningrad, the son of a factory worker and a mother who survived the siege of Leningrad during World War II. Growing up in a tough environment, young Vladimir's early years were shaped by the hardships of the Soviet Union, including food shortages and political tensions. Reenactment or animation of young Putin playing in the streets, showing his early interest in sports and self-discipline. As a child, Putin was not a typical student. Instead of excelling academically, he was more focused on physical activities, especially judo and martial arts. These early experiences taught him resilience, determination, and discipline, qualities that would later define his political career. In 1970, Putin entered Leningrad State University, where he studied law. It was during these years that he became intrigued by the Soviet intelligence services. He joined the KGB, the Soviet Union's notorious security agency, after graduation in 1975. His entry into the KGB marked a pivotal moment in his life, setting the stage for his later rise to power. Putin's KGB career took him to East Germany in the 1980s, where he served as a spy. His time in Dresden left a lasting impression on him, especially during the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. As the Soviet Union crumbled, Putin saw firsthand the fragility of the system he had been a part of. As the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Putin returned to St. Petersburg and began to engage in local politics. In 1996, he moved to Moscow, where he quickly rose through the ranks of the Russian government. In 1999, President Boris Yeltsin appointed Putin as the prime minister, a decision that would set him on the fast track to power. Yeltsin saw Putin as a loyal ally, a man who could stabilize Russia after years of chaos. Putin's tough stance on Chechnya, his ability to regain control of the oligarchs, and his perceived dedication to rebuilding Russia's pride quickly won him popularity. In December 1999, Yeltsin shocked the nation by resigning and handing over power to Putin as acting president. With his calm, composed demeanor and promises to restore order and prosperity, Putin quickly became the face of Russia's future. In 2000, Putin won the presidential election, officially beginning his presidency. His tenure was marked by efforts to reassert Russia's power on the global stage, curb corruption, and centralize control in the Kremlin. He quickly consolidated his power, becoming an increasingly dominant figure in Russian politics. Putin in the Kremlin, attending international summits, meeting world leaders, and making speeches. Over the next 2 decades, Vladimir Putin would become one of the longest-serving leaders in Russian history, navigating both national and global challenges. His leadership style, marked by both strength and pragmatism, earned him admiration and criticism alike. Montage of major events under Putin's rule: Russia's role in Syria, the annexation of Crimea, economic growth, and challenges. Whether in his handling of the conflict in Ukraine, his relationship with the West, or his focus on strengthening Russia's military and economic standing, Putin's presidency has been defined by bold moves that have reshaped Russia's role in the world. From a boy in a war-torn city to one of the most powerful men in the world, Vladimir Putin's journey is one of ambition, resilience, and controversy. His story is far from over, and as Russia moves into a new era, the legacy of his leadership will continue to influence global politics for years to come. Now let's talk about what really caused the fight between Russia and Ukrainian war. The ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, one of the most significant geopolitical struggles of the 21st century. Mention the impact of the conflict on the global stage, involving military, political, economic, and humanitarian challenges. Ukraine, conflict at the crossroads of Europe and Russia. Ukraine's westward drift since independence has been countered by the sometimes violent tug of Russia, felt most recently with Putin's 2022 invasion. Ukraine has long played an important, yet sometimes overlooked role in the global security order. Today, the country is on the front lines of a renewed great power rivalry that many analysts say will dominate international relations in the decades ahead. Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 marked a dramatic escalation of the 8-year-old conflict that began with Russia's annexation of Crimea and signified a historic turning point for European security. A year after the fighting began, many defense and foreign policy analysts cast the war as a major strategic blunder by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Many observers see little prospect for a diplomatic resolution in the months ahead, and instead acknowledge the potential for a dangerous escalation, which could include Russia's use of a nuclear weapon. The war has hastened Ukraine's push to join Western political blocs, including the European Union, EU, and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Why is Ukraine a geopolitical flashpoint? Ukraine was a cornerstone of the Soviet Union, the arch-rival of the United States during the Cold War. Behind only Russia, it was the second most populous and powerful of the 15 Soviet republics, home to much of the Union's agricultural production, defense industries, and military, including the Black Sea Fleet and some of the nuclear arsenal. Ukraine was so vital to the Union that its decision to sever ties in 1991 proved to be a coup de grace for the ailing superpower. In its 3 decades of independence, Ukraine has sought to forge its own path as a sovereign state while looking to align more closely with Western institutions, including the EU and NATO. However, Kyiv struggled to balance its foreign relations and to bridge deep internal divisions. A more nationalist Ukrainian-speaking population in western parts of the country generally supported greater integration with Europe, while a mostly Russian-speaking community in the east favored closer ties with Russia. Ukraine became a battleground in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea and began arming and abetting separatists in the Donbas region in the country's southeast. Russia's seizure of Crimea was the first time since World War II that a European state annexed the territory of another. More than 14,000 people died in the fighting in the Donbas between 2014 and 2021, the bloodiest conflict in Europe since the Balkan Wars of the 1990s. The hostilities marked a clear shift in the global security environment, from a unipolar period of U.S. dominance to one defined by renewed competition between great powers. In February 2022, Russia embarked on a full-scale invasion of Ukraine with the aim of toppling the Western-aligned government of Vladimir Zelensky. Russia has deep cultural, economic, and political bonds with Ukraine, and in many ways Ukraine is central to Russia's identity and vision for itself in the world. Family ties. Russia and Ukraine have strong familial bonds that go back centuries. Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, is sometimes referred to as the mother of Russian cities, on par in terms of cultural influence with Moscow and St. Petersburg. It was in Kyiv in the 8th and 9th centuries that Christianity was brought from Byzantium to the Slavic peoples. And it was Christianity that served as the anchor for Kievan Rus, the early Slavic state from which modern Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians draw their lineage. Russian diaspora. Approximately 8 million ethnic Russians were living in Ukraine as of 2001, according to a census taken that year, mostly in the south and east. Moscow claimed a duty to protect these people as a pretext for its actions in Crimea and the Donbas in 2014. Superpower image. After the Soviet collapse, many Russian politicians viewed the divorce with Ukraine as a mistake of history and a threat to Russia's standing as a great power. Losing a permanent hold on Ukraine and letting it fall into the Western orbit would be seen by many as a major blow to Russia's international prestige. In 2022, Putin cast the escalating war with Ukraine as a part of a broader struggle against Western powers he says are intent on destroying Russia. Superpower image. After the Soviet collapse, many Russian politicians viewed the divorce with Ukraine as a mistake of history and a threat to Russia's standing as a great power. Losing a permanent hold on Ukraine and letting it fall into the Western orbit would be seen by many as a major blow to Russia's international prestige. In 2022, Putin cast the escalating war with Ukraine as a part of a broader struggle against Western powers he says are intent on destroying Russia. Crimea. Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev transferred Crimea from Russia to Ukraine in 1954 to strengthen the brotherly ties between the Ukrainian and Russian peoples. However, since the fall of the Union, many Russian nationalists in both Russia and Crimea longed for a return of the peninsula. The city of Sevastopol is home port for Russia's Black Sea Fleet, the dominant maritime force in the region. Trade. Russia was for a long time Ukraine's largest trading partner, although this link withered dramatically in recent years. China eventually surpassed Russia in trade with Ukraine. Prior to its invasion of Crimea, Russia had hoped to pull Ukraine into its single market, the Eurasian Economic Union, which today includes Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. Energy. Moscow relied on Ukrainian pipelines to pump its gas to customers in Central and Eastern Europe for decades, and it paid Kyiv billions of dollars per year in transit fees. The flow of Russian gas through Ukraine continued in early 2023 despite the hostilities between the two countries, but volumes were reduced and the pipelines remained in serious jeopardy. Political sway. Russia was keen to preserve its political influence in Ukraine and throughout the former Soviet Union, particularly after its preferred candidate for Ukrainian president in 2004, Viktor Yanukovych, lost to a reformist competitor as part of the Orange Revolution popular movement. From a boy in a war-torn city to one of the most powerful men in the world, Vladimir Putin's journey is one of ambition, resilience, and controversy. His story is far from over, and as Russia moves into a new era, the legacy of his leadership will continue to influence global politics for years to come. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more videos on world leaders and political history. And always tell us something we need to know.